Hello guys, this is Zodiac Games back with you for another deck tech in Commander. Today we will be doing TALRAND, the Sky Summoner. It is a 4 mana for a 2/2, 2 blue, 2 colorless, Merfolk Wizard creature. So we're hitting back with those tribal decks again. What this card does is whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you put a 2/2 Drake creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So as you can imagine, this is a commander which you have to work around in terms of you being able to break his ability. And oh my god, can his ability be broken. So of course, being mono blue and going in with calm theme of my mono colored deck theme that we have for all of EDH, it is going to consist of all islands with only a few specialty lands, such as, let me just show you real fast. So we're running between 33 to 35 different islands in the main deck board. I'll go into more clearly which one we'll be using. And then we're also running 2 specialty lands. The lands that we'll be running are going to be Riptide Laboratory. This is a great recur. What it does is, for 1 colorless, 1 blue, return target wizard to your hand. And you use that card in case TALRAND becomes the target of a spell. And then, of course, we have Reliquary Tower. It is so easy to draw cards in this deck. We, at any given time, want to have more cards in our hand than we are allowed, so that card gets us there. Okay, as usual with my commander decks, I will show you the cards that I have in person, and then I will go to the actual list on Tapped Out. So, starting off, we won 2 creatures, one including the commander, and another being Lighthouse Chronologist. Yes, this is an extra turn mono blue deck. This is not an expensive mono blue where we run all of them. We run a few of the key basics. Lighthouse Chronologist is one of the cards that is a key basic for extra turns. With TALRAND being able to create more Drakes that we can fly over with 2/2 damage, this is a token deck which we use to swarm. And getting those extra turns with Lighthouse Chronologist level up ability is great. Okay, going into artifacts. Artifacts we mostly use in this deck for protection of our own creatures and to pump ourselves a little bit more. Okay, so first we're going to show Lightning Greaves, Pithing Needle, Hollow Triumph, Sapphire Medallion, Isochron Scepter, the most broken artifact in this deck, Soul Ring, Elixir of Immortality, and Neurotic Stealth Suit. Okay, now going into enchantments. We're going to do instants and sorceries last because that is the section of this video which is going to take the most coverage. Okay, first one we have is Jace's Sanctum. Gotta give love to those instances and sorceries. Bident of Thassa, all the draw. Metallurgic Summonings, because why just have 2/2 Drakes? And Favorable Winds. 2/2 Drakes, you say? I say 3/3 Drakes. Okay, going into sorceries. We don't run that many sorceries considering that this is an instant and sorcery filled deck. The majority of the ones that we do run are going to be power hungry cards, such as a few take an extra turn spells and draw spells mostly. Okay, we are running Omen, Slip Through Space, Treasure Cruise, Plea for Power, Preordain, Ponder, Cultural Exchange, Temporal Mastery, Savor the Moment, Merchant Scroll, Temporal Trespass, Time Warp, Portent. Okay. So, as you can probably see from the common theme, a lot of these cards that I'm going to be showing you are going to be nothing more than one blue, do an effect and draw a card. That is primarily what this deck runs off. It runs off recurable blue draw cantrip spells. A lot of that and counter spells, and of course our take an extra turn spells. So yeah, we are running that kind of commander deck here. We're not running a heavy extra turn element because this is a budget build. If we really wanted to put in the extra money, we could go all out and just get all the good extra turn spells. But since we're only running a few of the basic ones and some of the very cheaper, not so good ones, I felt that this would be a better experience for a budget build, someone who's looking to build something for the cheap. Okay, now going into instances and sorceries. Instances and sorceries, might I add, make up a good 1/3 of the deck. Yes, just instance alone make up 1/3 of the deck. So let's go through them as fast as possible. Capsize. Gotta love that buyback. Oh snap, it's Snap. Ray of Erasure. Disrupt. Pongify. Oh look, a monkey. Counter Spell. OP. Dismiss. Thought Scour. Frantic Search. Rapid Hybridization. Confound. Brainstorm. Repeal. Innovate. I'm gonna try and pronounce this again. Innovate. There we go. Think twice. Sapphire Charm. High Tide. Rewind. Snap back to reality. Oops. Squelch. Cancel. Clairvoyance. Peak. Aetherize. Opt. Remand. Anticipate. Exclude. Cyclonic Rift. Quicken. Impulse. Curfew. Boomerang. Peer Through Depths. Arcane Denial. Best draw spell in the game. LOL. Dissolve. And of course, Twin Cast, because we like taking extra turns. Okay guys, this is the deck list as it shows on Tapped Out. So just a brief overview of everything as I went through just before. The instants and sorceries make up the entirety of this deck for the most part. We run 37 different instances, small little draw spells to bounce spells to counter spells, and of course just small little cantrips. And that, again, ladies and gentlemen, is what this deck is. We draw cards, we replace cards, and then we create drakes, and then we swing in for lethal. This does have a heavy control build. For instance, we do run cards like Aetherize, return all attacking creatures to their opponent's hand. We are a very defensive build for the fact that we want to make sure we stay alive for as long as possible. TALRAND does not get his ability off until later on in the game. So turn 3, turn 4, we are not really doing anything. So we have to protect ourselves. The way we protect ourselves is through counterspells. That is unfortunately the only way. This is a budget build. Before I go into going making this deck anymore. The cost build of this deck is $110. You can buy it very cheaply though, I found on TCG Player, for a low of around $75, so that is a very good price point for this deck. It's so cheap, honestly, because we only really run common and uncommon cards which do small little draw spells. Like, for example, Opt right here is only 22 cents, and all it does is look at the top card of your library, you may put that card onto the bottom of your library, then draw a card. So we have these silly little 1 mana, 2 mana spells where we get out our Drakes, we find whatever answers we need, specifically if they're counter spells, or if we need something like Squelch, where we will counter target activated ability. Again, drawing a card so it replaces itself. That is what the deck is made of. So yeah, just a more in-depth view into the instances. We have the Aetherize for protecting ourselves. We have Anticipate for another cantrip to find our answers. We have Arcane Denial. So this is one of my favorite counter spells in Magic. It's a hard counter, so that's always good for 2. Its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Okay, awesome. And then you draw a card. So it's a counter spell, which is what we love. It replaces itself, which is what we need. And it gives us an extra card. And you know the best thing to do with this card? Arcane Denial your own ability. So on the next upkeep, we would draw a combined total of 3 cards in addition to our draw step if it was our turn. So this card is great. It triggers TALRAND because, as we know, TALRAND's ability is on the cast. So a spell doesn't even need to resolve before we pick up a Drake. So that means we can counter our own stuff for days and reap the benefits. Okay, going from Arcane Denial, we have Boomerang. Boomerang can work as a kind of both-sided card where it can both help us and it can help, well, not help, it can hinder both us and our opponent. Of course, we're going to use Boomerang in a sense which it benefits us more. It is a defensive card. If someone was to destroy TALRAND, we just pop TALRAND back to our hand. And it is also an offensive card, especially if we have an opponent who has a good blocker, so we return whatever blocker they may have from the field to their hand. Or if it's just a giant-ass creature we just don't want to deal with right now, we just put it back to their hand. Or permanent, or creature, or whatever one we would want instead. Okay, like I said, this deck is mostly cantrips, so we run the best cantrip of them all, Brainstorm. Again, this is a budget build, so Cancel is not the best counterspell in the game, but it is a hard counterspell for 3, and we do have ways of making our spells cost less. For example, we do run Jace's Sanctum. Instant and sorcery cards you cost 1 less, so that affects cards, for example, like Cancel, which would only be 2 blue, essentially making it a counterspell. Okay, so we have, of course, Capsize Buyback. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. We get a lot of late game action with this card, especially combine it with cards like High Tide, where we get double blue for all our islands, so we can return multiple permanents on the field. Usually this card is only really going to hit 1 target permanent a turn, because we do usually want to buy back the card, because this is a recurable spell. That is everything that we need in TALRAND, so we can get all those Drakes all the time. Clairvoyance. Target player looks at opponent's hand, draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Look, it's a cantrip spell, instant sorcery, very simple. It doesn't really do anything. This is just one of the smaller cantrips that has an interesting effect. Confound. Counter target creature spell. Counter target spell that targets 1 or more creatures. Draw a card. So this is a counter spell for if someone was to counter or destroy or do something with TALRAND. We counter that card, we draw a card, and of course with TALRAND on board, we get that Drake. We have the counterspell, the most awesome counterspell in the game. Okay, maybe not, but still, we have counterspell. Curfew. Each player returns a creature he or she controls to his hand for 1 blue. This, of course, is an offensive card, as where we would only, for example, have a Drake or 2/2 or even TALRAND. We would return that creature to our hand, and then they would hopefully return something even bigger on their side of the field. Cyclonic Rift. We have to have that way to bounce their entire board back to their hand, because this is, again, a control deck. Nothing says more control than bouncing all their permanents. Dismiss. Counter target spell, draw a card. The exact same as Arcane Denial, except for it's one more, and it doesn't draw your opponent a card. Instead, it just draws you a card. Disrupt. Counter target instant or sorcery opponent play unless they pay one more. Or draw a card. So this is a soft counter spell where you can both use it as a counter spell, indeed, but of course we mostly run this card for its replacement effect to get the Drake. Okay, Dissolve. Counter target spell, scry 1. It's not the best counter spell in the world. Again, I will say this, but this is what the deck thrives on. It thrives on tiny counter spells that work, but also, for example, can replace themselves through abilities like Scry. Alright, Innervate. Tap target artifact, creature, or land. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. This card is just generally good if you want to control, or if you don't want to have target creature swing at you this turn. It's great, and it draws you a card. Again, everything we need. Exclude. Counter target creature, draw a card. So this is a 3 mana cost spell for 1 blue, 2 colors, counter target spell, draw a card. Enough said about this creature. It is, like I said, just another counter spell that we will use. Use this against their commander early game. Draw a card, replaces itself. It's more than we can ask for. It's great. Okay, we have Frantic Search. So Frantic Search is one of the better replacing cards in the deck because it is 3 mana, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So it is going to draw you 2 cards, and then you can filter on which ones you want to get rid of, and then you can untap 3 lands. This is amazing in this deck because that gives us more options to put more Drakes into play. Untapping of the 3 lands, that is everything that we want because it is recurable. This card is amazing. Okay, High Tide. I already mentioned how this goes well with Capsize, but it's also just a generally good card as well. Because, again, just being 1 blue, it will trigger TALRAND, and it will also give us more mana than we can do with absolutely. So cards that will replace themselves, we just go cycling until we run out of mana or we run out of cards where we top deck. This card helps us out immensely. Who needs to run Cage Sun when we have High Tide? Okay, Impulse. This is a 1 blue, 1 colorless instant spell. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest onto the bottom of your library in any order. Again, replacing a card, finding the card that we need, finding that answer. Opt. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card onto the bottom of your library if you want to. Then you draw a card. So this is basically a 1 mana scry. And then draw. Peek. Look at target player's hand. Draw a card. Again, cantrip. Replaces itself and it could be good for information, I guess, too. Okay, peer through time. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them and put that into your hand. Put the rest onto the bottom of your library in any order. With this card, we go finding our answers again, or we go finding our extra turn spells. Okay, we run Pongify. Destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. For 1 blue instant speed, its control puts a 3/3 ape creature token onto the battlefield in replacement of the destroyed creature. This is an answer. This is one of our spot removal. Much like rapid hybridization, does the exact same thing, but just with a different token, can't be regenerated. Both of these cards have a rightful place in the deck. Plus, they can give us a 2/2 Drake. Even better. Okay, Quicken. So this is one of my favorite cards in the deck. The next sorcery you cast this turn can be cast if it had flash for 1 blue instant speed, and it draws you a card. So it replaces itself, and it can, for example, turn a... Let me just show you. It can turn a Temporal Trespass. Come on, Temporal Trespass. It can turn a Temporal Trespass or a Time Warp into an instant speed, take an extra turn. That is ridiculous. That is exactly what we want in this deck. The ridiculousness that comes with playing blue. That is everything that blue stands for. I love this card. It's so good. It's so good. Okay, then we have Ray of Erasure. Target player for 1 blue instant. Take the top card of his or her library and puts it into the graveyard. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. It's a cantrip. It's easy peasy. Okay, the famous Remand. Counter target spell. If that spell is counted this way, put it into the player's hand instead. So it is not a hard counter spell, as this spell is known for, but it is famous because it lets you draw a card. Yes, it's a it's a 2-mana replacing counterspell that draws a card. This is even better if, for example, you're countering a big creature, so you basically say, I'm gonna Time Warp for 2, and I draw a card. Instant speed, I love it. Repeal. Return target non-land permanent with converted mana cost X to its owner's hand, and then draw a card. At least it is a cantrip spell which replaces itself. At best, it is a spell which will replace itself, and it will also return target creature or non-land permanent that is being very offensive to you to your opponent's hand. After that, we have Rewind. Counter target spell, untap up to 4 lands for a 4 mana spell. 2 blue, 2 colors, instant speed. Again, a great recur, and it's a hard counter. Again, everything that we love in this deck. Okay, then we have Sapphire Charm. So this is a multiple choice option instant spell for 1 blue. Choose one. Target player draws a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep, or target creature an opponent controls phases out, or target creature gains flying until end of turn. So this card can both be offensive, it can remove target creature from the game for a turn, or it can draw you a card. It's great. It's, again, everything that this deck is. It's janky, it's silly, and it draws you a card, and it can put a 2/2 Drake. Even better. Okay, oh snap. Oh snap, it's Snap. Return target creature to its owner's hand, untap 2 lands. The best recurrer in this deck. It gets you a Drake. It returns something from your opponent's side to their hand, and you untap 2 lands, and you can use it in a pinch where someone is targeting TALRAND. We love it. Snap back. Okay, 2 blue instant speed. You may remove a blue card from your hand from the game rather than pay Snapback's ability, so that makes this card a free spell. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Again, using it in a pinch. Again, using it against an offensive card. And, of course, it can be free. So that means a free 2/2 Drake. Okay, we have Squelch. Counter target activated ability. We do not run Stifle in this deck because this card is so much better and it draws you a card. Even though it is 1 mana more, this is Commander. We are, of course, running on the idea that things are going to cost a little bit more. So we, again, do not care. Think Twice. 2 mana, instant speed, draw a card for flashback. 3 with 1 blue, 2 colorless. Easy peasy, draws your card, gets you a Drake. Not even something to think about. Okay, Thought Scour. This is just one of the more cantrippy cards, but 1 blue target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into the graveyard and then draw a card. You can say this is good against top deckers that use, for example, Sensei's Divining Top, but really this card is only in the deck for the 1 blue draw card. And of course, Twin Cast. Choose copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So, for example, you can copy the Take an Extra Turn, Time Warp, or Temple Trespass. So you can take 2 extra turns. This is what this card is really in there for. Or if you really want to go crazy, you can use it to go rampant when you're running out of land that a player plays, for example, Cultivate or Kodama's Reach. It has so many uses that it has to be an auto-include. And as one of the more expensive cards in the deck, it is undeniably worth the cost at only $2.95. And might I add, that is an expensive card for this deck at only $2, $3 max. Okay, going on to sorceries. Cultural Exchange. This is a 6 mana sorcery for 2 blue, 4 colors. Choose any number of creatures target player controls. Choose the same number of creatures another target player controls. Those players exchange control of those creatures. So, this card is amazing because it takes the creatures that a player has on the field, you exchange control with them with your 2/2 Drakes, and for example, you can get a card like an Eldrazi, you can get a card like Gristlebrand, Vorinclex, Praetors, Ginger Taxis. This is for the offensive gaining control of target creature and just giving them a 2/2 Drake in response. This card is great, I love this card. Okay, now we have Merchant Scroll. 2 blue sorcery. Search your library for a blue instant card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand. We already saw how many answers we have in our instance pile of cards right here. This card is great because it finds you the card that you need faster. Okay, Omen. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Return one of them in any order you may choose to shuffle your deck, then draw a card. This is a More expensive preordain, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's all it is. It's a more expensive preordain, but again, it helps us with our deck, and of course, we can find ways to make it cheaper too. Okay, Plea for Power. This is the first of the take an extra turn spells we have in this deck. It is a cheap spell for only 4 mana that can only help you. It is a sorcery with Will of the Council, starting with you. Each player votes for either time or knowledge. If time gets more votes, take an extra turn after this one. If knowledge gets more votes, if it is tied, draw 3 cards. So this is at a disadvantage, take an extra turn spell, but at the worst, it draws you 3 cards for 4. I don't even think that's bad. Drawing three cards for 4 is amazing. Or it can get you an extra turn. It is completely based on your opponent's decision, but either way that he chooses, this card will help you out no problem. Okay, of course, running mono blue, we are going to run Ponder. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order, then you may shuffle your library, draw a card. It gets us that cantrip, it gets us our answers, and of course, it gets us our drakes. Portent, look at the top 3 cards of target player's library, then you may put them back in any order. You may have that player shuffle his or her library. Then you draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. This card is both kind of offensive because you get to Fate Seal your opponent for 3 at the offensive, or at the defensive where you're trying to find the answer, you can Fate Seal yourself to find the best answer. You can shuffle if you don't like it, then you draw a card at the next turn's upkeep. It replaces itself for 1 blue sorcery. This card should be worth more money than it is in my personal opinion, but it is not because people are dumb. Okay, we have Preordain. Scry 2, draw a card, sorcery. Easy peasy. Savor the Moment. Okay, so this is, again, one of the cheaper, not so good take an extra turn spells, but it is still good no matter what. There are multiple times in the game where I have used this card for its benefit, and let me explain why. Okay, Savor the Moment. 3 mana, 2 blue, 1 color, sorcery. Take an extra turn after this one. What? 3 mana, take an extra turn. What's the catch? Oh wait, you skip your untapped step at the next turn. So why would you say I run this card? Not only does the fact that it gives me a Drake and that I can go into the next turn and draw a potential other card, there are many times in the game where I am creating maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe even 5 Drakes a turn, but they don't have haste. So what this card does, this card essentially gives them haste by giving me an additional Drake for its casting alone, and by giving myself an extra chance to deal an extra point of damage. Otherwise, this card doesn't really see any major play. Of course, you're not going to use this early game just to get card advantage or draw a card. I mean, you could if you really wanted to, if you're desperate. But I use this card late game to, if not as a win condition, in order to deal that extra damage with the Drakes. Okay, Slip Through Space. This is just one of the least good cantrips, but it's a cantrip all the same. It's a 1 blue sorcery, draw card. For Devoid, target creature can't be blocked this turn. That is all. Okay, Temporal Mastery. So this is one of the better take an extra turn spells. With the amount of brainstorming cards I have in this deck, for cards that can put cards from my hand back on top of the library, and ways that I can rearrange the top card of my library again, of course I'm going to run Temporal Mastery. With the amount of ways that I can put it back on top of my library and then draw a card in a turn that's not even mine, where I can Miracle Cost instant speed, take an extra turn after this one, of course I'm going to run this card. And of course I'm going to run it because it's a take an extra turn spell, guys. I get an extra turn for swinging in with Drakes. That is amazing. Okay, Temporal Trespass. So as you may have gathered by the fact that all these spells are very, very cheap, we're going to be cycling a lot of cards. So what that means is we're going to be putting a lot of cards from our hands into the graveyard. So our graveyard at any good game will have excess of 15 to 20 different instants and sorceries that we have used in turns prior. So that is where Temporal Trespass comes into turn. It is a 11 spell sorcery, but with Delve. So 3 blue, 8 colorless, Delve. Delve being each card you exile from your graveyard while casting this card pays for 1 colorless. So that means you can remove cards from your graveyard in replacement of paying 1 colorless from the colorless section of the spell. So if at a good point in the game, this is a 3 mana, take an extra turn, exile Temporal Trespass. It's a cheap spell, but it works for us because we have so many cards in our graveyard, and this is one of the reasons I chose to run TALRAND as my commander. It is silly, it is janky, but we love it. Then we run Time Warp. This is the only super expensive card in the deck at $17, $10 if you want to find a pretty good deal, but it is target player takes an extra turn after this one. It's that simple. 5 mana. Take an extra turn, sorcery speed. This is the most expensive card you'll be running in this deck. You don't even have to run this card in this deck. I just felt that I needed to have at least one decent take an extra turn spell, which, you know what, I could, for example, copy with Twin Cast and take 2 extra turns. Who needs 2 extra turns, people? I know I certainly do. Okay, Treasure Cruise, again with the same idea of Temporal Trespass. We are running multiple cards in the graveyard. We delve for 7, 1 blue, draw 3 cards. This is Ancestral Recall. I love it. Okay, going into enchantments, we are now done with instances and sorcery, so we now need to find ways to help ourselves through this game. Okay, favorable winds. Creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. So for 2 mana enchantment, it turns our 2/2 drakes into 3/3 flyers. Even better. Okay, Jace's Sanctum. Instants and sorceries you spell cost 1 less. So of course this is going to be good because that is basically affinity for instants and sorceries. And it gets us to scry 1, so we can find our answers even better off the top of the library from all cantrips that we're going to draw anyway. Amazing. Metallurgic Summoning. So this is a card that recently came out that is great because it lets us put that extra offensive onto play, where if we are casting multiple spells, we're going to have multiple tokens. My favorite combo with this card is, of course, Treasure Cruise, because with Treasure Cruise, it is an 8 CMC spell, but with Delve. So for just 1 mana that you're really going to spell with Delve 7, you get to create an 8/8 token. That is dumb. I love it. It's janky. It's 5 mana enchantment, and it's definitely worth the slot in this deck. Okay, so the lands that we are running 34 islands, 1 Reliquary Tower, and 1 Riptide Laboratory. Just to have a look at Riptide Laboratory again. Turn target wizard you control to your owner's hand. This card is a boomerang, but for our commander only. This is in case something was to happen to TALRAND, which, by the way, people, if you're running TALRAND, you should expect him to be destroyed a lot, unless you can counterspell him. So, counterspell the card that is destroying him. So that is why Riptide Laboratory is good. Okay, Biden Athasa. So what is the number one thing this deck does? It creates drakes for the offensive, and it creates a lot of instants and sorceries that help you need to draw a card. So what Biden Athasa does, you hit in with your drakes, which really aren't going to be blocked because they're flyers. You are going to draw a card for each one that hits your opponent. So this card draws you so many damn cards. On average, I would say this card can draw you an additional, in main phase 2, just after combat, 3, maybe 4 turns, which of course we're going to use to turn into even more drakes. Elixir of Immortality. So this card helps us in the way that, yes, that we are drawing so many cards, we, at any given time, could potentially deck ourselves out. This card stops us from doing that. It's a 1 mana artifact, 2 tap. You gain 5 life, shuffle Elixir of Immortality, and your graveyard back into the library. This is a defensive card against ourselves, and, of course, mill decks. Hall of Triumph. Hall of Triumph enters the battlefield. You choose a color. For 3 mana legendary artifact. Creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+1. We already have that 1 enchantment, Favorable Winds, that gives +1/+1. Why not run another one that gives +1/+1 again, but for only 3? I don't see a reason not to run it, and it is great. Icicle Scepter. Okay, for 2 mana artifact, you can imprint an instant or sorcery with converted mana cost 2 or less. Sorry, you can imprint Isoconceptor, 2-mana artifact with imprint for instant 2 or less from your hand. You can pay 2 mana to copy the exile card. If you do, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So what is the spell that we use? Any one of our instances that are 2 or less. My favorite card to do is, of course, Counterspell. You get a recurable Counterspell where you can just pay 2 mana, tap an artifact, and you get to counter that thing for free, and you get a free Drake. Or you could do Brainstorm. You get a recurable Brainstorm every single turn for just 2 mana. Silly, silly cards. Now we're going into Lightning Greaves. 2 mana, equipped creature has haste and shroud. This card is the best protection artifact equipment in the game for our commander. It gives us shroud, which is absolutely fine. It protects us, it protects our commander from removal and any other spells that we may need it for. Metallurgic Stealth Suit. So this card is not really good outside of mono blue TALRAND, but it gives us multiple purposes. Neurotic Stealth Suit. It is a 2-mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature cannot be the target of spells or abilities. So almost the exact same as Lightning Greaves, but it has 2 other equipped clauses. So it has 2 blue attached Stealth Suit to target creature you control, or it has equip for 1. For those who don't know the difference between attach and equip, attach is at instant speed and equip is at sorcery speed. So for 2 blue, at any moment, if someone was to target TALRAND with a kill spell, you can, in response, pay 2 mana, put Neurotic Stealth Suit onto TALRAND, and that kill spell that is targeting TALRAND fizzles. Yes. Amazing. Pithing Needle, because no deck without a Pithing Needle is worth running. You need Pithing Needle for the offensive cards that, for example, you want to shut down their Planeswalker deck. You want to shut down their commander that has an activated ability. This is what the card does. This is how you stop certain decks. Okay, Sapphire Medallion. Of course, again, we needed to run in a mono blue deck which has so many mono blue and colorless spells. Blue spells you cost 1 less or 1 colorless less to cast for 2 mana artifact. Of course. And Soul Ring. Staple in Commander. Staple in every EDH deck. We love it. Okay, finally, our one and only creature outside of TALRAND. Now, this is a personal choice because we do love those take an extra turn spells. Not a lot of people are going to target Lighthouse Chronologist when you have TALRAND in play as well. But of course, if they were to target Lighthouse Chronologist, you can just counter their spells. That is what this deck does, and that is what it is good at. It is a 2-mana creature human wizard, so that means Riptide Laboratory will work for it just in case you need to snap it back to your hand. It has level up for 1 blue. From levels 1 through level 6, it does really nothing, but once it hits level 7, at the beginning of each end step, if it is not your turn, take an extra turn after this one. So in a 1v1, at the end of your opponent's turn, you take an extra turn, and then you start your turn, then it goes back to them, and it is a recurring take an extra turn effect. Crazy. And even better when it's in multiplayer. If you are playing multiple people, you are going to take an extra turn at the end of each of their turn. And when it gets back to your turn, you're going to have an extra turn and your regular turn waiting for you. This, along with Time Warp, is one of the more expensive cards. But again, this is an optional card with Time Warp. You can make this whole deck cost only $50 if you really wanted to. I chose to go a little bit more expensive route, but again, that is still budget at only $110 for a commander deck. $75 if you go low, $110 if you go mid. So yes, this is TALRAND. I hope you guys enjoy this deck tech. This is Zodiac Games here. Have a great day, and I will see you later.